All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Please do the roll call.
Chris,
Here.
Marita. Here. Sally. Jim,
Here.
John. Philip,
Here.
Heather. Here.
Do we have any changes to the agenda for today's meeting? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any amendments to the minutes from the previous meeting? That'd be the April meeting. Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any public comments that are unrelated to agenda items?
Have a public comment, and I have passed out all these plats that I've found on the district recorder's website and also some from the boroughs. So I have found 3 recorded plats from Bricky, 1 from Bricky, 2 from Rick Braun, all that show a 50-foot access easement going back over 40 years. This is of David Tinas's work that shows the public access easement as well. The dock in front of the Woodyards is public access. The files on occasion for decades have for short stays tied up there. Without the easement, without those easements, there is no way for them to just walk down the dock and walk up the beach as they always have to their home. They would have to jump off the dock quite a ways further down, come down the beach, and then of course just come to my house, go up. But there's a traditional path that we've all walked from all my neighbors down the way and up. And that would be gone if a 50-foot easement goes away because the property was mental health. I mean, I think where it becomes the most crucial is when you leave what is the Files property and you start to go towards the, across the Woodyards, and that's, you know, part of where a lot of people walk and get to that dock and stuff. So not all of the plats look quite the same. They don't all look the same as what you see if you go to the property map viewer. So it's in some places hard to see, but it's pretty cut and dry that the Woodyards own all the property in front of their house, which would cut off access to that dock. And I think they're very kind, and I don't think they'd ever tell me not to walk the dock, or the beach. I also don't feel like they would ever tell the Files not to walk the beach. But Rick Braun did point out that sometimes ownership changes, and another person might not want to see people walking the beach in front of their house. So if there's any way to preserve these easements, I'd like to try. My thought was, well, they were wrong when they asked and applied for that alternative access easement for the Keegans. Well, then, and they were wrong when they said that we had to dedicate the highway. Well, maybe they're wrong now instead, and those easements can come back. And I've also included from one of Rick's plats, all of those plats were recorded, except for the early work that I'm showing of David Tinas's. And it says pursuant to AS 38.05.27, 127, AE, reservation of an easement for the public access is retained 50 feet upland from the line of the mean high water along Wrangell Avenue's State Alaska patent. I'm sorry, did I misspeak?
No, you told us avenues, Ringle Narrows.
Narrows, I'm sorry, Wrangell Narrows.
Different
I
location.
used to live near there. State of Alaska patent 6740. I apologize. I get very, very nervous speaking in public. And the other, number 8 on the plat was Mitkoff Highway right-of-way information was obtained from DOT PF right-of-way plat number 96-30. Control monuments MH19 and MH20 were held to determine the right-of-way location. And so I feel like a lot of emphasis was put on this highway dedication and right-of-way and how to do it right. And I felt they were all linked to this since they were they were given to us with the same plat as the other plat. I mean, the same plat was given to us by mental health for the sake of the Keegans and for the sake of the highway. I thought they worked in tandem. I didn't know that the mental health could then withdraw their request to subdivide and replat and dedicate the highway. But we are now left with the action that we took for the sake of the Keegans. Which in itself isn't so bad until you find out mental health lands might have all been acquired where all the easements go away that mental health had.
Do I have a question?
Yes.
So this dock is on previously Files property?
Nope, that is on Woodyards. And it was a dock put in by Jim Martinson, and he was always told, it's a public access, you do not own the
Okay, so
tide land.
was that property ever patented? If it was patented, wouldn't they own that?
It was not, it was, it's never been leased, according to Rick Braun. A lease is for a commercial endeavor. It is permitted, but it is not permitted for the sake of one owner. It is public access. And I do remember Jimmy telling us that too, when we were building our house. We've never tied up there, and we never will. But I've gone down there casting with my grandkids before, and I've gone down there, Dennis has come in with bump and goes, just grab me with the boat and go, or drop me off on the boat to go home. So I would be trespassing in essence. Do I think the Woodyards would be telling me, get off my land? No. But if the Woodyards someday didn't own that land, somebody else might be saying, I don't know you. Don't even want to know you. Get down there on the mud and walk all the way down that way, which I could do.
So at some point, they obviously had that documented clear out to the, how'd they get that through?
That's a Liz question, I guess. I don't know.
The consistency of easement along that entire beach all the way to town has always been in question, depending on who sold the property, whether it's mental health or the University of Fairbanks or the city owns it. So there's different easements all along there. There's no continuity to speak of,
But if you look at,
except on this, maybe on this corner.
if you
but-
look at Rick Braun's 2001, I think it is, it shows that easement all the way around.
Yeah,
And if you look at his other work, it shows that easement. I mean, even David Tennis's work, his earlier work in 2022 and 2023, that the 2023 was the ask for the vacate of the easement and then they were going to give an alternative access. So those were David work, and they also show the easement. Ricky, 1981, he shows the easement. It seems really hard to believe that even the Department of Natural Resources up until recently believed in it too, and now are flip-flopping. Because they flip-flopped on the need for the highway replat too. So I'm just thinking it's all kind of done pretty, I see red flags. What I want is the easements back.
Liz, do you have any comment on this?
The only thing I would say is that the action you took was very specific to the easements that actually did not exist according to ADNR and never existed in front of the Keegan's property. We don't have any information as to any of the other properties. And so when you look at a survey, the only thing that matters is what the survey is about, right? It's so just because there's an easement that extends down, if that's not part of the bold part of the survey, then you don't really consider that a legal survey that you would base a decision on. So the mental health trust and the DNR are the ones that decide whether those easements exist or not. The Planning Commission hasn't done any action that has taken away or added easements in that area. But because we addressed the issue at the Keegans, It doesn't have implication to the other properties. Only after DNR and mental health investigate and make a determination does that have an impact. So I can't tell you at this point whether those other easements exist or not. That would be DNR to tell you. And it has to do with whether, how that property was transferred into state ownership, whether it went through, and actually how the federal government held it, how it transferred into state ownership and when, and who it went to.
And I'm
So
just,
in the case of the Keegans, the DNR never owned that property. And so it is only under state ownership where that public access easement along mean high water attaches. But the property went from the federal government and was part of the mental health trust, which was then dissolved and reconstituted, but DNR never actually had ownership of it to attach that easement. And so both DNR and mental health are saying, because the state never held it or owned it, or DNR never owned it and conveyed it, that public access easement didn't attach. It was always under ownership of mental health trust. The same situation that we all heard about in the news when the trust was selling that property at Blind Slough where the big rock is. And there was a big deal about public access for fishing. And the trust quite clearly said there is no public access easement there because this is mental health trust land, and it has always been mental health trust land transferred from the federal government to the mental health trust. No state access easement attached. But it is property by property, and that determination comes from DNR, not from the Petersburg Borough.
right, and
So
And that is why Rick asked me to, or told me to ask you for a copy of the DNR's decision for the Keegan property, which I know you were going to give me, and specifically to show the dates and how did he put, what the significance of those dates are. And then
not
he
gonna tell you
said,
'cause I don't
you
know."
need to do the same for the properties
do
in
not
front
know.
of the Woodyards and the files to know that they've got, to know whether or not they're safeguarded.
I think if the property
or
owners
if-
want that information, because you're right there, you should petition Mental Health Trust and ask them to tell you, and so should the files, and so should the Woodyards, to do the research and make a determination for your properties about whether there's an access easement or not. I don't know the answer to those questions, right? I don't have that information and I don't know what the defining things are that make them come to those determinations. But you all are the property owners with a vested interest in knowing whether or not there's a public access easement in front of you. And I think that is the really definitive way to find out, are we like the Keegans? Or are we like, a couple miles down south where there are public access easements? And the trust and the DNR are the only ones that can actually tell you that answer.
When these things crop up, is there some way for us to let people know that, hey, there may be something going on in your neighborhood that's changing the way you've always used the beach in front of you or your lands? Because I mean, the files did not know this.
The only effect that we had was on the Keegans, in front of Keegans. We didn't do anything.
They walk that beach that direction too.
But that
So-
is actually, the easement has never been there because people have assumed it's there. According to DNR, it's never been there.
But it
right?
seems like a change in public belief, that an assumption that it had been there and always there. So when these things happen, is there a mechanism to where you let folk know what you've been doing and always thought you could do and had a right to do, you don't have that right anymore?
You only have that right if you legally really have that right, and only DNR can tell you whether you have that right.
Is it possible for us to take action to put that easement back in since the property is in private ownership now, if the property owners request that?
If the property owners want to put a public access easement in, they could replat that property and add an easement in. Yeah. But it would only apply to, you'd have to go to each individual
Right,
property. Yeah,
right.
and go back. Yep. So you'd have to replot and resurvey all those lots. Yeah, I don't know, yeah. But I think the question is whether they are there or not to begin
That's the
with.
first question, yeah.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
feel like-
DNR is the one that gives you that answer.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Any more public comments? Okay, we have a number of items on the consent calendar for our next meeting. Do we want to take them as just one big block or do you want to take them individually?
I move that we add all three of these items. to
Four.
the- Oh, there's four, I apologize. Four items, A, B, C, and D to the consent calendar for our next meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Just to the regular action. Yeah, to the public hearing items, right?
Just to the consent calendar.
Okay, off the consent calendar to the public hearing items. Yeah. We're taking them off the consent calendar. We're gonna put them on the public, scheduling them
Yes,
for
for
public
next meeting.
hearings.
For next meeting,
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes,
I get it. I get
that's
it.
what I said.
Yeah.
okay. Public hearing items. We have consideration of an application from Island Refrigeration to purchase borough-owned property at 107A Dock Street. We have a motion? Or actually, first we have the public testimony.
My name's Brock Snyder. I own Island Refrigeration and the one applying for this to purchase this piece of property. We're in the process of purchasing the adjacent piece of land. And thanks again for your support on that. It was kind of muddled. My first application kind of included that, but didn't all the way include it, so we applied for it again. But the purpose that it would be used for if I'm to buy it, right now, the shop that I'm able to build is smaller than I was anticipating, hoping. And so I would probably have to use it for a warehouse to store all of our compressors and condensers and equipment that we use. So that's just the purpose of it. I think in the resolution that we made for buying the larger parcel next to it, that I would assume maintaining that access or easement or whatever it is, the roadway to enter the property. So it would just expand that as a whole piece of property, and we'd be able to use that for our warehouse. And then since we're maintaining the road to it and putting in all the utilities to it, that's just why I felt it was we should apply for it. So that's all I have to say for that and the reasons why. So you guys can make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Do you plan on combining the lots or are you gonna keep it as a separate lot?
Oh, every time I'm not even sure how that works. I would probably keep them separate, but whatever's best. That's what we're doing, is just trying to do what's best. You know, we're just trying to support the fleet. And yeah, I'm just trying to do everything I can to make it so that it's right and we're not cutting corners. So does that answer your question? All right, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion?
I move to recommend to the Borough Assembly that McFadden Lease Parcel B, Plat 95-7 be approved for sale along with the findings as presented.
I second.
Discussion?
I just wanted to add one thing. The borough did receive a second application to purchase that piece of property, and that'll be on your agenda in July.
Okay,
But
A separate individual?
separate individual, but you should go ahead and make whatever recommendation you feel is appropriate for this one, and then in July, you'll have another application before you, and we'll do the same process and make a recommendation as far as what we feel is appropriate for that one, so.
okay.
I have a question. If we go ahead and approve his application to purchase and then somebody else comes along, isn't that null and void? I mean, you can't approve more than one applicant to buy the same piece of property, can you?
I actually we don't run this process, it's run out of the administration, out of
So-
the borough clerk's office, and this is the direction I got, is that they're willing to look at more than one application at a time. So that's what they want to do. Certainly if the sale is competitive, then certainly there could be more than one person interested in a piece of property. I think there's different potential uses. So that's, I think what they'll be looking at too is, Mr. Snyder has a certain use that he's proposing. This other applicant has a different use that they're proposing. So
Okay, so there's nothing that can hold us back from saying, yes, we approve this. And then it could come back up again, another application.
So the
Yeah,
other thing we do
Okay,
is
so we could still say
recommend,
yes, right
Yes.
here now.
and then the assembly can decide how they want to.
All of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I was gonna ask if Glow had any comment from Harbor. Since she's here.
There you go, it's green light.
Yeah, no, I think the property's up for sale and so.
But a little closer. It's not green anymore. There you go.
Property's up for sale and it sounds like, I don't know.
we got a negative on us.
Yeah, negative.
She's
Yeah.
rejected.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, no, go ahead and sell it.
Thank you.
That's all.
All right, we ready for roll call?
Marita? Jim?
Yes.
Philip? Chris?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any commissioner comments that, this time? Nope. Liz, any staff comments? Yeah. This thing on?
For July's meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning on it?
Okay, perfect, okay. And then I was gonna tell you that I finally, after a month of phone calls and emails back and forth, was able to talk to someone at DOT. And that's as far as I've gotten on that issue with the dedication of the highway.
Right.
So I emailed and said, do you need us? And said, well, I don't know that you need to do it. The properties are already split. And then I was like, well, that's not really the question. The question is, do we need to do it for the dedication and utilities and all those? Called and I called and I called, and then finally, just last week, I called and he picked up the phone. It was very exciting.
Yeah.
He said that right of way dedication, but nobody knows exactly where it is because it was never spelled out. So there outed.
Yeah.
Since they withdrew the
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, sorry, it's about as clear as. the public
All right, our next meeting is July 9th at noon here. We've already kind of covered, everybody's gonna pretty much be here. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Shouldn't we adjourn this meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.